Yes, I did forget the kid's binky. And I'm not going back for it either.
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to another episode of A Very Odd Caster. And today is the day after the Super Bowl. So Caster's Pub is a little stale smelling, shall we say. It was quite a Super Bowl. I mean, it was one of the best games ever, I think. And it was kind of nice because I don't really care too much about either team. I just wanted to see a good game, and a good game I did see. The final score says it all. There were key moments there, I think, that swayed the game. Some people could say, the fumble recovery for a touchdown, if that hadn't happened, this, that, you can always play that game. One thing, Jalen Hurts is a stud for sure. I mean, he's definitely proved he's one of the top QBs. But I think he was playing against the top QB in the NFL. I think Mahomes now has 2 rings. And with Brady in retirement now, I think the mantle has been passed. There's a lot of guys right at Mahomes' heels, including Hurts. Joe Burrow, of course, and Josh Allen. But you got to say, Mahomes is the guy. And man, he's playing through pain. Whew. I'm sure he got a shot of some kind of concoction at halftime because he was moving pretty good there in the second half. Key plays, I think the biggest play was that punt return. That was really a turning point in the game, I think. So it was great. There was that holding call near the end of the game. It was definitely a hold. It wasn't a, major mugging, but I think it did affect the receiver and throw off the timing a bit. It was enough to call. It's tough to call it in that situation. It was third down. Casey would have had to kick a field goal, and then Philly would have had a minute plus to go and try to tie it or whatever. But, it was a hold. If they hadn't have called it, and then Philly had won, I feel moderately bad for Philly fans. But they played great. Both teams were really good. So it was a super spectacle of football. And the halftime show did not disappoint either. I thought that was pretty good. Rihanna did great. Man, she's obviously not scared of heights. Comes in from that flying saucer, that flying platform. Better her than me. So I thought her show was pretty good. The only question mark I had was, all those Jawas or stormtroopers or whatever Star Wars characters that were on there with her. I could have maybe done without them. But she was good. It was interesting that after the performance, given that the Super Bowl was just a couple days prior to Valentine's Day, that as Rihanna was leaving the stadium, her ex, Chris Brown, was there with a bouquet of flowers for her. And I think that happened. Also, I noticed that, one of the things in these Super Bowl shows, usually the lady performers are leaving nothing to the imagination in terms of their choice of wardrobes. And Rihanna was quite covered up. And I did sort of notice a little bit of a belly. I thought, what's going on there? Maybe because I know she just like had a kid not too long ago. So I'm thinking, well, maybe there's something in here, for the masses, right? But as it turns out, after the show, her publicist confirmed that indeed Rihanna is pregnant. So congratulations to Rihanna. And it certainly was a good thing that Rihanna did not, in her condition, take the Janet Jackson route and flash her nipple. Otherwise, the most talked about Super Bowl commercial would have been a milk commercial. So speaking of the Super Bowl commercials, there were several good ones. I kind of wasn't paying attention to all of them. So, if there was any all-time classic duds, I'd like to learn about them. And if you know of any, please send them to me at veryoddcaster@gmail.com. That's veryoddcaster@gmail.com. Now, the commercials I did take note of, I thought a pretty funny one was that Ram commercial. The Ram Rev 1500 premature electrification. Not bad. That was pretty good. And of course, there was a few EV commercials. EV, not ED. You know what I mean? Out there. And, kind of seems like the EVs are slowly drifting into the mainstream. I think there's some available now for under $30K, which is not too bad. But, I don't know. We're not there yet, I don't think. Another commercial I thought was interesting. I didn't understand it at the time. So I did some research and figured out what the hell was going on. But there was that Blue Moon commercial that was a Miller's Coors. They were like promoting the hell out of Miller's Coors, and then they roll out Blue Moon. And so I turned and said, if they're trying to promote Blue Moon, that was the worst way to do it. They spent the whole commercial promoting Miller and Coors that's because Miller Coors merged years ago. They bought each other out or merged together, and they also own Blue Moon. Who knew, right? So they weren't really promoting Blue Moon. They're just promoting all their stuff. So in retrospect, they did not waste the $7 million it cost to run that ad. There's a couple other commercials of note. There was the T-Mobile commercial. There's those two T-Mobile guys who are in some kind of a relationship. And they showed up with none other than a toupee-less John Travolta. Oh my God. And they're singing the Summer Nights tune from Grease. And, a cute commercial. But I couldn't help, not to be a downer, but think about, we just lost Olivia. Why are these two T-Mobile guys singing her part? I don't know. Somebody explain it to me. And finally, my favorite of all the commercials was the Breaking Bad reunion on the Popcorners chips. I confess I'd never heard of Popcorners chips, but I was definitely into that ad because I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan, and Better Call Saul, a binge watcher's delight. And so you had Walter White and Pinkman reuniting for a popcorners, you know. And then of course they had Tuco, Salamanca there at the end. So that was a treat to us Breaking Bad fans. So those were some pretty good commercials. Overall, I thought it was a pretty damn good Super Bowl. Don't you think? Now, a week ago, we sort of missed the whole Grammys thing. I didn't watch the Grammys, I admit it, but I saw some clips and I got some of the feedback on there. So I wanted to reflect a little bit on that based on what I'm hearing. There's a couple of things of note. There was a lot of outrage amongst Beyonce fans and Taylor Swift fans that their favorite gal didn't win the Song of the Year Grammy, and it went to Bonnie Raitt, the old school blues chick who's fantastic, but the young people don't know who the hell she is. So they were outraged. The Grammys have always rewarded the old schoolers. You know, that's my take. I don't even know what songs were up. I don't even know the Bonnie Raitt song. I don't even know what day it is, for God's sake. But their history has always been to, you know, honor the the traditional artists, because you don't know how much longer we're going to have them, right? I certainly hope we have Bonnie Raitt for a long time. Anyhow, so the fans of Beyonce and Taylor Swift beside themselves and tweeting away. That was one thing I noted. There was some criticism of Sam Smith's performance. I guess the rap was that there was a little too much toxic masculinity going on there. I don't think that was it. I didn't see it. I don't need to see it to make that wise crack. And finally, as per usual, Madonna caused a big stir with her new appearance, shall we say. She caused a big stir, and we all learned a very interesting thing, that the material girl's face is made out of is polymer. So now we know that about Madonna. Let's see. Next week is President's Day, and in fact, yesterday, the Super Bowl Sunday, was Abe Lincoln's birthday. And President Joe Biden sent out a tweet that said, "Happy birthday to my younger brother, Abe." When will I learn? So, you know, other than the Super Bowl, I had an interesting weekend. I had the pleasure of attending a friend's son Eagle Scout ceremony, the highest honor in the Boy Scout chain. And it's I haven't been to one of those things in years and years and years. And it's interesting, all the scouts stand up and do their little thing. And every time they did it, I kept hoping that they'd break into that impression of the guards from Shrek. "Pick number 2, my lord. Pick number 2. Thank you. It might have been the other way around, but okay, you get the idea, right? So yeah, it was a very nice ceremony and everything. Now, I was not a scout. I know nothing about some of the rituals and whatnot. But I think, you know, the core thing is a nice thing. You know, they sort of promoting good values and kindness and problem solving and whatnot. I don't know. So that's all good stuff. I was not a Boy Scout by any stretch of the imagination when I was young. However, one year when I was about 7 or 8, I was a Cub Scout. And that leads us to another stupid ass thing from my childhood. So I was a little kid, and once a week we had to put on our Cub Scout uniform and wear it to school, because right after school we had a den meeting, at whoever the den mother's house was. I don't have any memory. And this didn't work out too well for me. And not trying to garner sympathy, but here's the story. Unfortunately, every time I donned that Cub Scout uniform, there was this mean kid on the school bus who would beat the shit out of me. Left me alone the other 4 days, Didn't even exist, but I wore that Cub Scout uniform and he beat the shit out of me. Nasty kid. Just, you couldn't get any meaner. Beating up animals in the neighborhood, throwing rocks at cars. He was just a horrible dude. So every week he would usually wait till we get off the bus. And it was this routine. I'd get off the bus and I'd dash madly for the house. And because he was older, he'd catch me and beat the crap out of me. And not only would he beat me up, but my sister, who was a brownie at the time, the first level of the Girl Scouts, he used to beat her up too when she wore the uniform. So this dude was psycho mean. I can't remember what his name was. I think it was the Dahmers or something like that. Oh my God. So we were terrorized for a good part of the school year. It got to the point where I'm like, Mom, I don't want to wear my Cub Scout uniform. My mom's like, why not? I'm like, Mom, can I quit Cub Scouts? So it was intense. Fortunately, my sister and I were a resourceful pair, and we came up with a pretty good plan to counter the Dahmer kids' behavior. So Girl Scouts, once a year, of course, they sell Girl Scout cookies. Very good, tasty treats, I might add. And we collaborated and whipped up a little surprise for the Dahmer boy and his brothers, who were no winners either. So we took a box of the Girl Scout cookies, opened them up, and my sister and I proceeded to pick our nose and wipe boogers all over the cookies. That's right. And then we packed it right back up, made a little note saying, "This goes to the Dahmer family." And the plan then was hatched. So my sister went up to the Dahmer family door. Boy, she was braver than me. I wouldn't go near there. Rang the doorbell, and Mrs. Dahmer answered the door. What do you want, kid? I don't know. She said, I think she's relatively normal, for a mother of psychopath. So my sister says, here's your Girl Scout cookies that you ordered, Mrs. Dahmer. And Mrs. Dahmer was like, I don't think we ordered any Girl Scout cookies. Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, your son, Jeff, bought some on the bus, which was not true. So here was a brownie telling a lie. Love it. So the confused Mrs. Dahmer said, okay. And then she kind of opened the cookies and picked one up and started to take a bite of it. And my sister was like, no, I'm not. Save those for your sons, Mrs. Dahmer. So she put it back and went and took the box to her lovable son and brothers, and my sister ran home laughing her ass off. And I laughed my ass off to the point of incontinence, I might add. So a few days later on the school bus, sans Cub Scout uniform, I asked little Jeffrey Dahmer, how'd you like the cookies, Jeff? And he looked at me like, they were great. You know. And then I couldn't resist. I said, well, they should be, because we wiped our boogers all over them, which of course led to another beating. But it was the most satisfying beating I've ever had. And that, my friends, is another stupid ass thing from my childhood. Ah, yes. Just thinking back on that story puts me in such a great mood. In fact, it makes me want to dance. Come on, join me.
Remember years ago when you said that the earth was cooling? Just who in the hell did you really think you were fooling? Guess they didn't have fossil fuels back then. Now turn that theory around and we'll beat it again. Because I am the waste of Westlake.
Here I am.
I am the waste of Westlake.
You said I wouldn't amount to nothing, but look at me.
The waste of Westlake.
I'm the president of the state of California.
The waste of Westlake. Learned all about asteroids in the solar system. They're kinda like hemorrhoids, just in case you missed them. Learned all about Pink Floyd. Learned all about opioids. Learned all about battle droids. Heaven's purgatory. I am the waste of Westlake.
Here I am.
I am the waste.
This floor is so sticky. Just all sorts of stuff spilled during the Super Bowl bash of yesterday. We had a big spread of food, as you might imagine. And it was all good. It's hard for me to decide which snack was the best. Probably the one without boogers. Okay, now we're gonna get to something that meant to get to a few weeks ago, but just haven't been able to fit it into the schedule here. It's a little segment we like to call Odd Jobs, Odd People. And now let's take it away here. And our guest today is Ramon Nudell. Ramon seems like a regular guy, but his occupation is to sing the national anthem at cockfights. Ramon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So how long have you been singing the national anthem at cockfights?
Well, it's been about 7 years now I've been doing this.
And how did you get into this field?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, actually. I was borracho with mis amigos. I was drunk out with friends at a cockfight. And the competition was late started. It did not start on time. So the crowd was getting restless. So I stood up and I just, because I was drunk, you see, I started singing the national anthem. Oh, say, come you see by the dawn's early light, and so on and so forth. And so everyone started singing with me. Everyone was laughing and having a good time. And then the cocks were brought out. The competition started. And then afterwards, the promoter came to me and said, Ramon, would you like to do this as a job? And so that's how it started.
Okay, so you're based in Oklahoma.
See, I am based in Oklahoma, pero I travel around the Southwest, San Antonio, Texas, Brownsville, Texas, El Paso, Flagstaff, Arizona, Chippendale, Arizona.
Don't you mean Scottsdale, Arizona?
No, Chippendale, Arizona. See, they are big cockfighting fans.
Well, that's something that would never have occurred to me. Now, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you get paid to sing the national anthem at cockfights?
I get paid $100 per canción, for every time.
It's not bad. So how many people go to these competitions?
No, it depends. It can be 50, 70, 100, 50 to 100 people, usually in the audience.
And I thought cockfighting was illegal in most states.
Well, so is prostitution, but you don't see people complaining about that, do you?
So you're not afraid to come on here and talk openly about your job, even though it's illegal in many states, including Chippendale, Arizona?
No, of course not. I mean, it is not hurting it, right? And besides, I'm not the organizer. I am just the singer. I sing the national anthem. I have nothing else to do with the cock.
But you earn money from it.
See, earn money from it, yes. Oh,
Still, if these events got busted, you'd be out of a job.
yes, well, if that were to happen, then I would simply go back to my old job.
And what was your old job?
Oh, I was a clothes salesman at Penny's.
Oh. Well, here's the thing. Don't you think that cockfighting is cruel?
Well, boxing is cruel. Mixed martial arts, MMA, that's cruel. Football Americano, that's cruel. Fighting is just a sport.
Yeah, but the cocks don't have any choice in the matter, do they?
Well, when you put it that way, I suppose not. But they're just animals. They're just silly animals.
Okay, well, do you have anything else to say for yourself?
Well, I have one thing to say. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Well, okay then. Thanks, Ramon Nudell.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
What a cock. And that was our segment known as Odd Jobs, Odd People. Well, that's about it for us today. We will see you next week on another episode of A Very Odd Caster. Ciao.
Artificial devil walking high